I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to Build an Iconic Life podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whitehead, and this podcast is dedicated to help you build a life with zero regrets by focusing on how you have everything you need to stand up, stand out, and live life on your terms. Let's dive right in. This is Build an Iconic Life. I literally had to stop my friend in the middle of telling me this story because I'm telling you, this recording, you would not have even heard it. My friend Adam Smith is building something extremely special. And we'll get to that eventually, but more important than that, I want to give you a snippet of a higher level conversation between people that are in the trenches doing the work. And Adam, you were recently on TikTok. By the way, welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, bud.
Sorry, everybody. You were recently on TikTok, and it was one of your TikToks that blew up. And so what is your TikTok channel first?
Savage. Wow, dude, hold on. I think it's Savage Freedom's Defense, but hold on to that. Stand by 1 second. Let me just double check. So I think this is the problem. Like you have, at Savage Freedom's Defense, and freedoms is plural.
I want to go check it out. But he's going to describe for us now this narrative that he's had with a bunch of people, not a bunch, but several people that were saying some hateful things. And I just want to set this story up. You're a big dude. When we say big dude, you're a hoss. If you were a deer, we would all have you mounted on the wall because that would be the one everybody wanted.
The trophy deer.
You're the trophy deer. But anyway, you were in short shorts.
Yeah.
Because you don't give a shit like this. And you were talking to people about doing 20,000.
20,000 repetitions. So let me give you context to the video. The video doesn't give context. The question is asked, what is the primary problem here? And the whole conversation revolved around the idea of a group of people doing 20,000 repetitions. Now it's 20,000 repetitions of either jumping a rope 20,000 times or jumping 20,000 times. But here's the thing. And so hold on, I'm gonna even take one step back further. When we get into leadership development or team development inside of personal growth or business growth spaces, one of the things that I like to do is I like to bring the special forces background and apply it into the civilian market. So what I do is we do during special forces assessment and selections, there's a bunch of different events that happen. They're called team events. And team events, the assessors give you enough information to succeed and enough space to fail. So in the conversation in the civilian market, I do the same thing. And the beautiful thing about it is that people's true character shines through. It's insane how much their character shines through. And you can watch and see, well, people who are very self-centered and self-focused on their own success will use a lot of terms of I and me and what I did and how I performed. And other people that are very team focused, you'll hear them use words like we and our and us and big team. Anyway, so let's shift into TikTok because this is really great. So there's a video inside of TikTok, and basically it's me calling a couple of guys out, one guy specifically, for focusing on himself rather than recognizing that the instruction was as a group, right? Complete 20,000 repetitions as a group. So there's and at one point I'm like, you know what? How about you do some fucking push-ups? How about you just do some fucking push-ups right now? Do push-ups. And the guy kept asking questions or not asking questions, but pushing back, challenging the statement that, hey, dude, can you definitively say that you've done 20,000 repetitions? Anyway, I get pretty fired up when I do this shit. Like I'm pretty passionate and intense because I love it so much. Like I love what I do, and it's hard to even explain how much I love what I do. Anyway, so they're doing push-ups. And the video is going off, and the video hit something like 250 or 300,000 views. And there's a bunch of different really shitty comments. And I don't really pay attention to the comments that much. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine, and I was like, the comments are really fucked up. Like they're really shitty. And the rule in social media, especially when you're building your social media following, is don't pay attention to the comments. Right. The comments are like the seedy, it's like that seedy underworld, sort of like criminal underground that you never want to really look into. It's the dark web of social
And
media.
TikTok and YouTube are the worst for them.
So this particular comment pops up and it says, and it intrigued me. I don't know why, but the comment popped up and I saw an alert notice on my phone and I looked at the comment and it said, nobody with short shorts will ever, no man with short shorts would ever talk to me that way. And so I was like, well, that's interesting. I'm curious who this person is. And so I looked at their profile and all of their videos are them playing video games. Now, look, I've got a lot of buddies that are former Green Berets and current Green Berets that are phenomenal at video games. So I'm not going to hold it against anybody. And also don't think I'm not going to return some fire. So my response was, I'm sure that your lifetime of playing video games has prepared you to back up the words you speak. And the follow-up statement that I got from this person, this individual, was, this isn't serious enough for you to lose your life for. Shut your mouth. And I was like, oh shit, that's a death threat. So here's the thing. I've never gotten a death threat on social media until this moment. And I take shit very seriously. Like when it comes to that, we can talk mad shit back and forth and we can get into witty banter or we can get into a shitty debate.
This is what you did for a profession.
17 years of my life, this is what I did. And
yeah,
and I know people that do things and I've got and so I'm like, okay, fuck, I don't want to waste my time, but dude, I have a family, like I have a little girl. I take death threats very seriously, so I'm going to look into this. And I think that this is the piece. So brings us to this piece, which is modern society and modern masculinity is absolute bullshit. Like modern society has created an entire populace of weak-minded, tiny-dicked, panty-waisted fuckwits that sit in their fucking basement that play video games and they live in their mom's basement like trolls under a bridge. And they think because they watch, I don't know, intellectual comedies that they have the ability to talk shit. And there's no repercussions. And that's what we've gotten to. A society of shit talkers that think they can do and say whatever they want to do and say with absolute zero consequence and absolute zero repercussions.
And the question is, number one, the question is for me, because this, I by the way, I agree with you. That's why I do what I do. Why? And number two, and this is what I love about you, how are we going to overcome that?
Oh, good. Both good questions.
I know.
Both good questions. The why is, what is the why? Well, the why is that there's been a determined effort by a multitude of different special interests to undermine masculinity in general. So undermine masculinity across the board. And I'm not talking about men. I'm talking about the concept of masculinity, right?
Correct.
And so I think that there's this piece that people have to realize that masculinity is a fucking good thing. Being a savage is a good fucking thing. Like, and you don't have to be a man or a woman to be a savage, to have masculine energy. It doesn't matter what sex you are. That at the end of the day, it comes down to this piece. It's like, dude, being a savage requires you to recognize that violence and aggression is an asset. And it's good.
And knowing when to use it is better.
It's knowing when and how to use it. You know, Jordan Peterson says it very well. He says, you cannot be a peaceful man if you're not capable of great violence. If you're not capable of great violence, then the aspect of being peaceful or not violent is not a virtue, because the concept of being a peaceful person means that you are capable of great violence and choose to not use it and have learned how to control it.
And not to mention, we're not just talking about, or at least my part, we're not just talking about physical violence, because there's also a saying out there that suggests that it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
That's right.
And I believe that when we practice in peacetime, we don't bleed as often in wartime. And that's with every aspect of your life. It's a mentality to take. That's a savage mentality that you're talking about.
It's the reason why I named my company the reason why I named my company Savage Freedoms. I named it Savage Freedoms very specifically because there has been, and it continued to be, a huge cycle of freedom, oppressing the freedoms of the individual. Things like, oh, words are violence. Hey, your words are violence. No, my words aren't violence. If you want to see what violence looks like, I will gladly demonstrate it to you, but my words are words, okay? Violence is a verb. It requires an act. Words are words. Words are not violence. Words can be delivered in an aggressive tone. Words can be delivered in a way that's not tactful. Words can create feelings and things along those lines, but they're not violence. Violence is violence. And so I name my company Savage Freedoms because I want people to savagely, and if you consider the definition of what a savage is, there's a lot of negative connotations to it. But really what I'm saying to people is, please stop giving so many fucks about the possibility of getting canceled and savagely defend and claim your freedom and exercise your rights every single day so that we don't lose them. And it is a mentality. It's a way of life. And I want to add, dude, I'm on fire. I want to keep going. Look, I want to add one more thing to this, and that's this piece right here. Chris, if you think about it, this mentality of, look, I have a tattooed on me, Civis Pacem Parabellum. It's the same concept of, I would rather have a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Civis Pacem is, if you want peace, prepare for war. The concept around all of this is the mentality of constantly striving to be better, seeking more knowledge, seeking better personal preparation, the ability to control your mind and not allow, quote, life happen to you, but you happen to life. It's about existing in a world where it doesn't matter what chaos or what obstacle gets in your path, because you live your life in a way to overcome obstacles, because you live your life in a way prepared for possibility. When a possibility presents itself, you have the chance to take action around it. And that's the piece.
Boys and girls, we talked about the why, but it doesn't really fucking matter why anymore, because the truth is Adam just shared how we become sovereign humans in a world where we don't know where it's going to go. And the truth is it took me way too long in my life to figure out discipline. It didn't happen in college. It happened when I started my first business, because it was something that I wouldn't let you take from me. Now I'm 49 years old, so it's been 20 some odd years that I've been in business. But that's where discipline first started making sense. And all Adam's really talking about, dude, all you're really suggesting to people is that they first give a damn about something, and then they're willing to put themselves by themselves through the paces of focusing on how to be better every single day at what they do.
That's it.
That's how we make a better world.
That's how you make a better you. Fuck a better world. I don't give a shit about a better world. The fact is that I don't do what I do for the world to be better. I do what I do for people who live in the world to be better, because the world is going to do whatever the world chooses to do. I don't get to control or dictate the actions of the bureaucracy or the tyrannical governments that control a majority of the countries that are our adversaries. I only get to control how I show up. And if I show up in this moment right now and I say something that impacts one individual, and that person chooses to shift their perspective and live a life to be better, that's the ripples that I want to create. That's the rock in the pond that I give a shit about. I care about that one person, because that one person in reality is the world, bro. Like, yeah, that's the reason why I say what I say. Like, I lost my identity, purpose, and mission. When I got out of the Army, I lost all aspects of who I was, because my identity was directly tied to the hat that I wore on my head. My purpose was to do my job better, and my mission was whatever higher command authority gave me. And what I realized after almost killing myself and going through a huge cycle of personal growth was that my identity is me. Like, the core content of my character is my identity. And even though I'm imperfect, and even though I make mistakes, those mistakes and imperfections don't define my identity. I do, based on the core character and contents that I choose to live by. So my identity is Adam Smith. My purpose is something I get to define. I don't have to have my purpose defined by someone else or be better at a specific job. My purpose is to not be a good cook. That's not my purpose. Or to be a good weapons person, or be a good communication sergeant, or be a good, be a good Green Beret. That's not my purpose. My purpose is to create impact in the world. When I joined the Army, that was the thing I wanted to do. I didn't realize that was the purpose of my life, was to create impact. I didn't understand that. Here's the thing, which most people miss, is the mission. The mission was, in the military, from this higher command authority. You will no later than do X, Y, and Z. And so my mission was always defined by someone else. But here's the thing. Your mission in the military is how you deliver your action into space. So let's say, for example, our mission is to kill or capture some shithead in Afghanistan, right? Well, the purpose of that mission, there's going to be a higher purpose to it. That's the strategic understanding. The mission is how we actually deliver that purpose into the world. That was the piece I missed. I didn't realize that my mission is how I deliver my purpose into the world. And so that's the reason why the world is not that important to me, because the world can't be my mission, but you can.
You know, last time we spoke on stage together, you played a video.
Mm. Yeah.
It was a very graphic video. You literally were considering taking your life. Literally.
Yeah, like pistol in my mouth. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What, dude, that's as close as anybody gets, and still here talking about it. That's what it seemed to me from the video that you showed. That's about as close as it's ever going to get, and somebody's still here talking. What was the thing that pulled that pistol out of your mouth? Because who you are now, and it's not a long time.
No, it's not a long time. The first answer is I was so drunk that I passed out with the pistol in my mouth.
Look, God's real.
like I literally, that I was so drunk at the time that I went through this, that I had finished writing my suicide note. I loaded my pistol, and I had my last drink, which was the last drop of alcohol we had in the house at the time. And I was like, all right, well, there's no more booze, so I guess this is it. And I picked up my gun, I put it in my mouth, and the last thing I remember is putting a pistol in my mouth, and then I passed out, because that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember is my fiance coming through the back door of the house, and me with booze bottles pretty much everywhere and a gun. And it's a Wednesday. That's a pretty normal Wednesday at the time. Like, yeah, what are you doing? Drinking and playing with my guns. But so in a lot of ways I blew it off. And wow. She didn't know. She didn't know that that's where I was. She didn't know that that's how dark of a place I was in my life, because I was so good at hiding it. She knew I was fucked up. She didn't know I was that fucked up.
What'd you do to start crawling back out of that hole, bro?
The next day I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine. Yeah. Every time I tell a story, it fucks me up. And I've told a story so many times because I really wanted to normalize it with myself, but every time it fucks me up. A really good buddy of mine named he goes by Trip. He owns a tactical training company in the Louisville, Kentucky area that trains law enforcement and military personnel. So the next day I got a phone call from Trip, and he's like, "Hey dude, are you back?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm back." He's like, "No," I'm like, "Are you back? Like, you're not going to take a contract, you're not deploying again, like you're back?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm back." He's like, "Sweet. Well, what are you doing next week?" I was like, at this point, I had gotten out, or I was in the process of getting out. I dropped my paperwork, and I had submitted, I don't know, a shit ton of resumes to try and find a job, and I didn't have any value. I had no value. Like,
in the civilian market,
at least in my eyes at the time. I didn't know how to translate what I did into the civilian marketplace. And so he said, "Hey, what are you doing next week?" And I was like, I mean, I don't know. I got nothing going on. He's like, "Were you looking for work?" And in my mind, I'm like, "Dude, I'd like shit off your toilet right now for $100. Like, that's like $20, but I'll do it for nickels," is where we're at right now. And so I'm like, "I got nothing." He's like, "Well, dude, I'm training a bunch of dudes up in Northern Ohio. You wanna come with me?" He's like, "I can pay you this amount of money per day. Are you good with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm in. I'll be there on Sunday." He's like, "Perfect." So I showed up on Sunday. We went up to Northern Ohio. We were supposed to train like 14 or 17 guys. It ended up being like 42 or 43 dudes. We trained for 5 days. We finished up on Friday. We drove back to Louisville, Kentucky from Northern Ohio. And when we got back, we walked into the office and we sat down, and it was late. It was late in the evening, really, really, really late in the evening. And he gave me a check. And I didn't have any money, Chris. Like, I I had $0 in my bank account. I was in debt. My truck was really close to being repossessed. I couldn't put food in the refrigerator. Like, we were living off of my fiance's paycheck, which was less than $18,000 a year at the time, because she had just finished a master's program and was doing an internship program. So we had no fucking money. And I felt like a piece of shit, because here I am, a man who believes in being a protector and provider for a family, and I can't protect and provide even for myself. This is ridiculous. So he gave me a check for twice as much as what we'd agreed upon. And he handed it to me. He's like, this is not an argument. I know who you are. And he said, this is my, and I quote, this is my investment into you. I want you to be here. So if you'd like to be here, then on Monday, I'll see you back here. If you don't want to be here, that's okay. I understand. Like, I get it, but I want you here. I want you to be a part of what I'm doing. And then he gave me some cash, and he said, this is so that you guys can go out this weekend and do something, like get a steak dinner or buy some new fucking pants. Like, this is just for you to do whatever you got to do. The check is for you to put in your bank account, make sure your bills are paid for, and their food in the food in the refrigerator. And I didn't know what to say. And so, in all sense and purposes, Trip saved my life. And he helped me recognize and realize that I had value in the civilian market. And so Monday morning, I got back to the house, and then Monday morning I decided, I'm fucking in. So I left the house. We lived 2 hours and a little bit away, like 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours away at the time. So I left the house at like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I got to the office like 5 or 6 a.m. And I pulled up, and I pulled into the parking lot, and I parked my truck at the time. And I remember sitting in the parking lot, like looking around, like, when are these motherfuckers going to get here? 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, like 9 o'clock, 9:30, they show up. 9:30, they show up to the office. I'm like, what are we doing? 9:30, what's wrong with you guys? And Trev's like, hey, bro, this ain't the military, dog. Like, we show up, but we show up when we got to show up and do work. So that set me on a course, dude. Over the next 3 years and some change, I became the director of training for that particular company. And I trained a shit ton of law enforcement officers all over the country on close quarters tactics and a conversation around the warrior mentality. And I'll tell you what, it literally changed my perspective on the value that we bring. I made it home. There's a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be alive, and I am. And luckily, there's some knowledge-based skills and experience that I could deliver to the law enforcement guys and help them get home to their families. So I found new purpose. It was a new mission. But I still didn't know who I was. I didn't know who Adam, well, I didn't know me. I didn't know my identity, and I didn't understand my purpose, and I couldn't articulate it. But at least I had a mission that gave me something to focus on.
How did that matriculate into finding your purpose, finding out who Adam is?
2018, I participated in a thing called King's Kit with a company called Wake Up Warrior, owned by Garrett J. White. His head coach is the crazy Persian. The head coach, Sam Falsafi, a very good friend of mine. Love Sam. He's such a good dude. I love him so much. Anyway, I did this thing called King's Kit, and there's assignments that happened, some pre-workup and shit's 30-day challenge. And one of the first videos that kicked off was a Why Are You Here video. And I was standing at Crossroads right next to the house that we were living in. And I remember taking a video, and the video was about me having to budget for orange juice. And I was like, I'm fucking sick of budgeting for orange juice. There's gotta be something more. But really, budgeting for orange juice was a metaphor about my life. I basically had been budgeting who I am, right? Limiting who I am. We really did have to budget for orange juice. I really wanted orange juice. I fucking like it. And at the time, like, our burn rate was what it was. We had debt and shit. We had to pay. I fucking like orange juice. So I had to figure out how to make certain that we could have orange juice in the refrigerator every week, because I like orange juice. And so I like the video was legit. Anyway, that sent me on a trajectory. It got picked up. I don't know what happened, what the algorithm was that picked this up, because we're uploading in this thing called Workplace by Facebook, but it blew up inside the network. And everyone saw this video inside of the network, and Sam saw it. And Sam Sam picked me to do one-on-one hot seat with, which led to a spectacular interaction. And then he gave me an assignment after the first hot seat. And he said, hey, every night you're gonna ruck 2 miles with a 55-pound ruck every night. And I was like, all right. And then when you're done, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it in silence. You're not gonna listen to music or anything else. You're gonna do it in silence. When you're done, you're gonna come back and you'll drop a video, 2 minutes or less, about your experience. And I was like, all right, cool, man. So the first night I did it exactly that. I did exactly his assignment. Then the second night, while I was on my walk back, I did another video at the end of the walk just before I finished. And the third night I did, and the fourth night, and this thing started called rucksack meditation. So I was like, and so tonight, on tonight's rucksack meditation, there's some shit that I learned. And I started putting out a bunch of the information and things that I had learned and the lessons that I had learned over the process of not the ruck, but the day and the meditation process in the morning. And that turned into a movement inside the movement. So by the time at the end of the 30 days, like there was an entire thing called rucksack meditation. Like the dudes had made fucking t-shirts, right? And it was crazy, which that led to WarriorCon 3, where Sam recruited me to be a coach for Warrior Week. And so that was like, that piece led to an interaction that I will never forget. And I will share that story, which is this. I had imposter syndrome. Everybody that was in this company that was participating in the events that I was coaching at had all gone through Warrior Week. They'd all paid their financial dues to be a part of it. And then also the blood, sweat, and tears that goes along with that particular experience. And so I remember being at the network experience, the level called Empire. So after you'd gone through Warrior Week and Kingdom Challenge, you'd then become a member of Empire at the time before Garrett shut it all down. This is what it was. And Empire was the network. It was the mastermind group, right? Is the highest level that you could be at. And I remember this guy walked up to me. This dude, I later found out this particular guy was worth about 100 or 150 million, I think, or something along those lines. Was an app developer, is a very successful guy. And he walked up to me and he said, he had said something along the lines of like, Adam, I don't know how you do it, but I want what you have. And I have the lowest net worth in the room when it comes, like I'm in a room full of people at the time that are making at minimum $500,000, $600,000 a year. And at maximum, like the guy making the most money in the room is making close to $1 billion, right? That's his net worth. I'm the lowest net worth guy in the room. And I'm like, okay, what is that? Like, what do you not have that I have? Cause I'm not following this conversation. So my response was like that. Okay. What is that? Because now I want to know. And he's like, you have so much certainty about who you are. What? I haven't heard this. This is very new to me. He said, and I wish I knew who I was with such a level of certainty and clarity, because I feel like I could create even more success. This dude's generated hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue over the course of his lifetime. And in the last 3 or 4 years, he's done that in the last 3 or 4 years, right? Like that's yearly. That's what he's doing. Like, holy fuck. And I didn't know that. And then when somebody told me, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting. This is the piece that clicked for me. I belong wherever I choose to belong. And I didn't recognize that. And in that moment, I had this guy tell me, like, I want what you have. And I thought that's a really weird thing to hear from someone who's been so successful when I don't feel successful in my life. And to realize that when I chose to recognize that I had value and worth, when I chose to recognize and acknowledge that people saw something in me I couldn't see in myself, it gave me permission to actually begin to seek that piece that I couldn't see.
It's literally one of the most courageous things that any human on earth can do is be willing to seek validation from self by going, I am, therefore I have value.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's a hard concept. And I believe that's a real warrior. And it's weird that you went through the mechanism of literally learning how to be an elite warrior to only come to the largest challenge, which is who the fuck are you? Dude, it's a beautiful story, man.
It's brought me to where I'm at, which I love. I'm pretty blessed from where I'm at. I'm very grateful for what I have. I'm not satisfied with what I have, though.
So so what did I see, a month and a half ago?
Yeah, a month and a half, 2 months ago, something like that. Yeah, hold on. November 1 and 2. No, it was November 1st and 2nd, bro. It was
Damn, it didn't even a month. It feels like it's been 4 months, man. That's how much we've been doing.
Oh,
that was my whole point of this. The question is, since I saw you 27 days ago.
Yeah, 20. Yeah. Let's go. You ready?
Let's tell people what you've been doing in the last 20 odd days with a holiday in the fucking middle.
With a holiday in the middle. So this is really cool. Actually, let's go back a little bit. So my life from the orange juice video to where it is now is insane. Just insane. Because at the time, and I love Trip with all my heart. He's one of my best buds in the world. He's a phenomenal human being. He's created success for himself and his family. He's changed the lives of other operators that have gotten out of the military that got lost in the sauce and needed something to change. I brought on a dude, a very good friend of mine. His name's Kurt. He and I were together in the military together. I brought him on. Kurt is now the director of training for the company, and basically runs the training programs. And so we brought on some other guys. Like the company has grown extensively. Now I stepped away because, and I even told Tripp, I was like, dude, we're going to have to move to North Carolina. You know, my wife, she wanted to move down this direction when it was time for her to get pregnant so she could be around her family. So everything I did at that point was, okay, well, how do I make that happen? How do I make that work? And I've done fucking everything. I helped a medical cannabis company through its IPO, created some brands for them, some hemp-derived CBD products that are custom formulations to help support the treatment of post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury. I've owned CrossFit gyms. Man, like I had a small custom knife forge that I make custom knives in. Like I've done a bunch of shit. The piece that's happened in literally this year in September of last year, stepping away from the last company that I was with until now. Last year in September, we stepped away from another company that I had helped found. I made the decision that I wanted to do something on my own. And really, because at that point, I supported the growth of other people's vision, and it was time for me to fucking do my own thing.
Yep.
And so that's what I did. We stepped away. We had $3,000 in our savings account. Like we literally, that's all the money we had left was $3,000. It was the end of the month. I had no clue how I was going to feed the family, but I knew it had to happen. And so I just beat feet, man. I beat feet. I made phone calls, started shaking hands and kissing people's foreheads, and the whole meet people and build a network. And I just went after it. And 3.5 weeks later, we closed our first chunk of change in business. So we had $3,000 in the bank account. 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks later, we closed our first $70,000 in business. 4.5 weeks after that, or 3.5 weeks after that, we did another $40,000 in business. And then in the first quarter of 2022, we did another something like $65,000 or $70,000 in business. And so from the last week of September, having $3,000 in the bank account, to March of 22, we had done more in sales. I had done more in sales, personal sales in the company that I had generated than in the amount of income I had made in my last 2 companies over 2 years. And I was like, holy shit, what is different? And the difference piece was the belief in self, which is at that point amazing. This is the piece. That's a shit ton of talking about a shit ton of movement pieces. The pieces that we're not talking about are the things that happened when we're static. And that's where the real impact changes. And this is the thing that I've had to learn the hard way. The military teaches you to be busy, so you look busy, right? So do shit to look busy. In the civilian market space and in general in business, if you're doing shit to look busy, it's because you're just taking action for action's sake. The action's not intentional and purpose driven. So if you're listening to this and I could ever give you one piece of insight or advice, I would say, don't do shit to make yourself feel like you're doing shit to get shit done. Focus on getting shit done that is intentional and purpose driven, that will generate one of 3 things. 1, revenue. 2, potential new revenue. And 3, time. If you can focus on those three things and taking action around those three things. So here's an example. Let's say, for example, you want to create a bunch of generate a shit ton of social media, and you're like, okay, I'm at a point where I'm ready to do this, but I'm tired of doing it on my own. Hire someone to do the social media postings, to do all the content, like to understands your voice and understands how you write, supports you in those actions, and then takes it over from you in order to create the content and get the content posted. And if you pay someone to do it, you're not losing money. You're paying to buy back time.
Absolutely. A lot of it.
And so that's been my principal focus over the last 2 months. Like, dude, I'm on the road a lot. I'm traveling a shit ton. How do I buy back time? That's been a huge shift in it's really a crazy thing, right? It's a crazy thing, man.
It's dude, I've had employees for 25 years. Like, I started a business, didn't know my ass from deep center field. And like, I hired 4 guys immediately, like dumb as a box of rocks. And the one thing that I have become extremely aware of as an entrepreneur and then as a business owner, because those are 2 mutually exclusive things.
That's right.
Is that putting a paintbrush on a wall with paint on it is what makes us money. Is nothing else. You can get the best truck, you can wear the best outfit, you can put the best tarp on the ground, but that's not what makes you the money. Making the money is putting the paint on the wall. Figure out how to do that more efficiently, figure out how to do that cleaner, figure out how to be done sooner, and you'll make more money. And as we started to learn that, I started to learn that the essential few is what I need to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that Chris Whitehead needs to focus on that moves the needle forward? And Adam, bro, I used to work 16-hour days, and all of a sudden it turned into 4-hour days. It's the same principle that you're going through, because I realize, my God, I think I'm spending most of my time with a can of dip and pacing around this house.
That's my favorite line ever. A dude's like, how do you do this? Because I live my life with 3 things: tobacco, caffeine, and hate.
We don't recommend that, children.
That is not the choice way of handling business. But here's the thing. So there's a few things that I like to consider, which is called the soft imperatives or the soft truths, the special operations forces imperatives, special operations truths. And there's 5 specific ones that we go by. Humans are more important than hardware, right? So if you're looking at developing your business, the concept of growing your business or trying to replicate success or whatever that might look like, and you're building teams, here's some things. Humans are more important than hardware. The second thing is that quality is better than quantity. So I teach shooting and fighting, and I love teaching shooting and fighting. I also teach leadership and team development. We also do business consulting, the whole 9 yards. So I love teaching shooting and fighting. And so when I teach a shooting course, all my shooting courses are private. They're all custom. They're done on a package deal, and I send out a post and a packing list, like bring 1,000 rounds of pistol and 1,000 rounds of rifle for 2 days of shooting. And if you look at most shooting courses are like, they're like, bring 350 rounds of pistol and bring 425 rounds of rifle for 2 days of shooting. And I'm like, no, because quality is more important than quantity. But do you know what is more important than quality itself? Is quantity of quality. And so I like to have a conversation with my guys, which is, how do we create quality? Well, we create quality through the quantity of repetitions. But how do we create true quality? And the quantity of quality is through the quantity of quality repetitions. So this idea that practice makes perfect is bullshit. It doesn't. Practice makes better. And so the only way that I can help people create a quality response or quality retention of information or quality action or a quality execution of tactic or mechanic is through the quantity of repetition focused on the quality of performance. And so when I bring guys in, like, hey, dude, you're going to bring 1,000 rounds of rifle, 1,000 rounds of pistol. Why? Because my target is for you to shoot all 1,000 rounds before the end of the weekend of rifle and all 1,000 rounds of pistol. And I had a guy once tell me, like, dude, like, that makes the class a little expensive when I was doing some open enrollment courses, because at the time pistol ammo was like 36 cents a round. So 9 mil is 36 cents a round for 115 grain ammo, right? So like $360 for 1,000 rounds of pistol and 42 cents a round for 5.56, like $420. So essentially these guys are paying, $800, give or take, for ammo on top of a course that's going to open enrollment courses at the time were costing dudes $750 for 2 days. So they're paying all that plus travel expenses plus lodging, and open enrollment courses in general The target demographic for the open enrollment course is kind of anybody that can afford it can come.
Yeah.
And so there's, some dudes that leverage a shit ton of their life in order for them to go to these courses. That's the reason why I shifted my business model, because I didn't want that to be the case. And so these guys are showing like, man, that's pretty expensive. Like, man, well, that's the price of being better. Understand that there's a fucking cost to everything that you do. And if you want to be better, then you have to pay the price, period, because there's a price to it. And this is the piece. Like, I've got a pistol that I got in November. I will finish this year before the end of December. I will shoot 100,000 rounds through this pistol. It's got, this particular pistol was brand new, 0 rounds through it when I got it in November of last year. It's from a company called Cosent Arms. The guy that owns it is phenomenal. The pistols are absolutely spectacular. I've had one gross malfunction, weapons malfunction. And the malfunction was this, very simple. I had shot something like 87,000 rounds to the pistol. We're getting close to 90. It might've been just over 90,000 when this happened, but the frame screw had somehow or another backed itself out, which is not a big deal. It's not really a major issue. It's not going to create a catastrophic malfunction. It's just a gross malfunction, right? So the pistol stopped working. It's not a big deal. Like, the gun's not going to blow up. There's not going to be anything crazy like that happens. I literally took it back. We looked at it. They put it back. Like, yeah, so you shot it so many times. Apparently the screw just backed out and you didn't realize the screw backed out. And I was like, oh, fair enough. So we put the screw back in. We had a conversation. Like, I'm going to hit 100,000 rounds before the end. So do the calculation on this. 9mm, 115 grain, roughly on average, I can get it for about 32 cents a round, and do the math. 100,000 rounds at 32 cents a round.
You doing some money.
So $32,000 in ammunition.
$30,000 to
So $32,000 in ammunition this year, just in pistol ammunition. The 3 biggest expenses I have in my company is fuel, lodging, and ammo. I adjusted the lodging cost so I could double down on ammo, so I could double down on my expenses. So
how cool is that?
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. So look, but that's hey, look, you want to be fucking better? Shoot 100,000 rounds.
Yep.
You want to be better? There's a price to it. It's going to cost me $32,000 to shoot 100,000 rounds out of this pistol by the end of the year, and I'm okay with paying it. And I'm okay with paying it because it makes me fucking better.
Yep.
And I'm not saying to anybody that's listening to this, like, hey, dude, you don't have 32 grand to go out and buy a bunch of ammo. Don't do it. But understand that that's not what we're talking about. There's a cost and a price to being better. If you want to be better, there's acceptable losses in your life that you're going to have to acknowledge that happen. You want to be less fat, the acceptable loss is maybe not having so many beer at night. If you want to be less unhealthy, maybe the acceptable loss is not having so many candy bars or eating like shit and eating out on a regular basis. If you want to be happier inside of your relationship, or you want to be happier inside of your marriage, you want to be happier inside of your business, or whatever that looks like, maybe an acceptable loss is not constantly being an asshole and acknowledging and accepting that you might have to go to therapy or counseling. Like, maybe that might be an acceptable loss. You get to fucking shut your ego.
There's also with that, there's an idea that choose your hard. Like, if you want to build a business and you're not willing to sacrifice anything for that business, understand you might sacrifice that relationship for that business. Mm-hmm. If you instead want the relationship is more important than the business, understand that business might be a sacrifice.
That's right.
But you need to go into it eyes wide open. You need to have honest conversations with the people that you call the most important in your life. And you need to then stick in the trench that you choose to, and not waffle back and forth between the two, making everything mediocre.
Oh,
because
God.
that's what's happening.
And you know what? Here's the worst part. For whatever reason, we as a society have decided that celebrating mediocrity is acceptable.
Mm-mm.
And I don't, fuck. Anyway, all right, let me get to number 3.
Sorry.
Number 3 is this: special operations forces cannot be mass produced. This is so important. If you want to create a successful anything, doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter what it is. It can't be mass produced, right? So if you want true quality, elite individuals inside of your company that are performing at a level that you could never truly ask of them, like, you're like, fuck, I don't even know if I knew that you could perform like this, but God, keep it up. Like, whatever you're doing, do that more. I want you to keep doing. You can't mass produce elite personnel. You can't. But you can find them. You can encourage them, and you can foster an environment that truly allows them to to just perform at a level that it's hard to even contemplate. Right? You can create that space. The 4th one is competent special operations forces cannot be created after emergencies occur. I'll say it one more time. competent special operations forces cannot be created after emergencies occur. What does that mean? When an emergency happens inside of your life, inside of your business, and as soon as that emergency happens, it doesn't mean that you're going to magically create a special remedy that becomes an elite remedy to the problem. No, you're going to put a Band-Aid on it in order to have a short-term solution, and then identify what the deficiency or disconnect was so you can create a long-term solution, and that long-term solution then becomes an elite solution. If you think about the idea of elite or special operations forces make up or comprise in general 1% of 1%. So 1% of the US population on average, this was like 4 or 5 years ago, volunteered to join the military, and just under 1% of that population went into the entirety of the special operations forces. And if you go to the next level of special operations forces, 1% of that 1% then goes to the next level. So it gets smaller and smaller. Special operations forces is tiny. I went to selection, had 400 plus dudes there. Of the 400 plus dudes, like 90 got selected or 60 got selected. I can't remember exactly. There's a 30-person difference there, but it doesn't really matter. There was only 4 or 6 of us that actually finished all the way through the Q course, and the other guys dropped because of medical reasons or life choices or priority changes, whatever it might be. But the attrition rate was pretty high. And so understand that, like, when an emergency occurs, competency is the piece we got to look at. And there's a conversation we've had a lot, which is people are like, I really want to be comfortable doing this thing. No, you fucking don't. You don't want to be comfortable doing anything, because comfort creates complacency, and complacency is death. You want to become competent, because competency creates confidence in execution, right? And that's a piece. And so one of the soft truths, understanding this, when it talks about competent special operations forces can't be created after emergencies occur, is if you have an emergency, i.e., let's say 9/11, and you shift into high gear with the production of personnel, right? The creation of special operations forces, which we actually saw happen in real time in the United States Army Special Forces Command, which creates USAFIC, which creates Special Forces soldiers or Green Berets. We had a general come in, and the general was like, check it out. This is what we're going to do. There's an emergency. We need personnel. So we're going to change the selection process from 21 days. We're going to kick it down to 14 days. And then we're going to increase how many selection cycles we have in a year, from 4 to 6 or 8. And what we found is that we shit the bed in the selection process, and we're not selecting good candidates. So our attrition rate went higher, our failure rate through the Q course went higher, and our death rate went higher. Yeah, with those personnel. And here's the last one. Most special operations require non-SOF support, non-special operations forces support. What does that mean, and how does that even translate? You could have a killer sales team, like one dude who just fucking crushes it. But that one dude is so egotistical and so self-centered that person becomes a cancer. They're negative about everything. They complain about everything, but they're killing it. They're making you lots of money. The fact of the matter is that individual wouldn't have the position that they have and wouldn't be able to do what they do without all the other support personnel that are in the process of supporting the back end. Because you've got, once you have, let's say you sell a service, but now you have service fulfillment. And let's say the sales piece has to have advertising and marketing. So you have an advertising and marketing team that's actually creating the front end on that lead that comes in, that whatever lead generation process you have. Then the lead gen comes in, your sales guy has a conversation with them, and your sales guy closes them. That's great. So your sales guy had one touch in the entire transaction, from the time that person saw an advertisement to the actual completion of service fulfillment on the back end. Your sales dude had one touch, and that was it. Closing them to cash in order for you to fulfill a service. But that person has a giant ego. Now, in reality, they're the ones that become a crucial or special operations piece in the entire process, because you've got to have a killer sales team to be able to close them. You have to have a killer service provision on the back end. You have to actually provide the service that you're saying you're going to provide, which means that has to happen too. And whoever that deliverer is going to have a crap ton of support personnel behind them. So if you think about the reason why, in general, most special operations require non-soft personnel or support, is because when you take 12 dudes and put them behind enemy lines, 12 Green Berets, and put them behind enemy lines, and their mission is to become force multipliers, to train, to lead, train, and mentor indigenous forces or insurgent forces on how to be better, and then utilize them by, with, and through in order for us to achieve our mission set and their mission set. And all the while, there has to be logistical support. We have to have fire missions. We have to have close air support. We have to have back-end logistics that gives us material and intelligence. We have to have communications capabilities. There's a shit ton of stuff that happens behind the scenes that nobody talks about because the dudes on the ground that are shooting guns and training the guys are the quote-unquote superstars. It's the reason why God love the Navy SEALs and God hate the Navy SEALs, because they have created such a spectacular marketing platform and a name for themselves that everybody knows them. And all you hear about is how the SEALs are so badass. What we don't talk about is how about the swiftboat crews that do infill and exfil for them? How about the crazy, amazing helicopter pilots that do Chinook water infiltration, where they literally bring a Chinook down into the water, drop the tailgate into the water, half flood the damn helicopter so they can get Zodes onto it and off of it, and then take off and let the water drain out of the back of it. You submerge your helicopter in water. This is fucking crazy. That's the shit we're talking about. How about this? How about every single person that is required to make certain that those birds can fly so that the SEALs can get to the target or extract it from the target? How about every person that makes certain that the people that take care of the helicopter get paid? That's the piece that people don't realize. For the top 1% of 1%, you have all of these other support personnel that are necessity in order for that one person to create huge success, which is why inside of companies that think that the company can't perform without them, because guess what, dude? Everybody's replaceable.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a rant.
No, it's a beautiful one, because the truth is that people are becoming aware of it. They just don't know what to do with it. And leaders need to be in place to teach people the truth that they feel in their gut, but their heads haven't caught up yet. And because their heads haven't caught up yet, it's like a bunch of spoiled children. This is my view, not yours, but it's like a bunch of spoiled children who are willing to get on social media and act like a keyboard warrior instead of doing that discipline in their own house. Because I'm telling you, when the shit hits the fan, we're going to know what you're made of. And people need to understand that. Because the shit is always going to be hitting the fan. Life doesn't get easier. We simply either choose to get better or not.
And that is such a true statement. Life does not get easier. Stressors do not go away. Chaos does not slow down. It is always there. The difference is this. We go through a shit ton of stress inoculation. So when we are put into chaotic situations on a regular basis, we are given oftentimes, like, a lot of times we get quote no-win situations in training in order for us to have to deal with that level of stress, that level of like, fuck, man, we're going to lose.
Yep.
Right. How do you overcome it? Well, you get better at overcoming chaotic situations by performing in them.
It's the only way.
Like, you have two options. You can show up and do, or you can run away and hide. I promise you this. If you run away and hide, you'll never be better. Not ever. If you show up and do, you might not be better initially, but eventually you will be. And you'll learn how to overcome that stress, like that big cortisol bump, that big stressor that happens in your life. You'll learn how to overcome it. It's not going to go away. Like, fear doesn't go away. Stress doesn't go away. Adrenaline doesn't go away. That shit does not go away. The way you manage those things.
I literally made a post this morning and I said, remember that fear you felt when you started, ... You're going to feel that fear when you finish. # do it anyway.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the truth of life, everyone, that you must accept, feel the fear, do it anyway, and align yourself with badass people that are willing to do theirs as well. That's what's important.
I literally started a post draft, and I'm going to drop it as soon as this is over. I literally started a reel on Instagram, which is a conversation with someone who's like, someone said, I'm lost. I'm like, you're not lost. You're not lost. You know exactly what you want. We can have a conversation. Give me 12, 15 minutes and we can define all the different aspects. Like what is happiness with your relationship look like? What does happiness inside your business look like? What does personal fulfillment look like? What are your principal targets look like? We get to 12 to 50 minutes. We'll have it all defined, all of it. So you know what your fucking problem is? You're afraid. Your problem is that you're afraid and you're allowing fear to dictate inaction. The thing is the fear is not going to ever go away. It's not. Fear doesn't look. If anybody says they're not afraid to die, I'm going to say this. The only reason why I'm afraid to die is because I have a shit ton of living left to do. I had a very good friend of mine and mentor, phenomenal person, love him. Oh, he's been a life changer for me. He said, Adam, he said, what do you think the definition of success looks like? And I said, well, the definition of success is dying for something greater. And he was like, what does that mean? I said, well, look, man, like, think about the people that we celebrate in the military. They're heroes. They died for their country. That's the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, that's success. Success is literally the ultimate sacrifice. And he was like, so you've lived your entire adult life thinking that the only way to truly be successful is to die. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, this is a problem. I said, why is that? He said, because when you're dead, what can you do?
Yeah.
I was like, nothing. He's like, that's right. So when you're dead, your ability to create impact is over. The impact that you've created up to that point is all the impact that you'll ever make. Now, somebody might tell your story, which is cool, but you personally are done. You're done creating the ripples. Okay, fair consideration. He said, Adam, I just want you to know this now. And I'm going to ask you this question. At what point are you going to realize that you don't have to die for something, but however, you get to live for something greater? And that phrase changed a huge perspective of my life. And it incited so much fear because now, like, fuck me. I don't have to do things and kill myself in order to be successful. I don't have to die in the definition of success. I get to live, not just exist, but live on a level that I've never recognized or realized that I have permission to do. So I get to live for something greater. I get to live. I get to take action. Think about this. Living is a verb. It's an action. To live is a verb. To exist is also a verb, but the difference between those two things are so fucking different.
Correct.
Existing is breathing with a heart rate and just being in that space. Living is an act of taking control of your life and directing it in a way that you have never done before. And that fear of living never goes away for me. And the fear of death, I wasn't really afraid of dying in the past. I was afraid of not dying in a way that created impact. Now I'm like, fuck me, dude. I don't want to die. I have a lot of shit to live for. And I'm afraid. Like, I'm afraid of the actions that take sometimes. Fuck, this could fail. Oh God, this could fail. This might not work out. You know, the fear doesn't go away. But I'll say this. I'm more afraid of dying, never living, than I am of living and never dying, because I will die.
Yep.
But that's the P. Like, will I die? And when I die, know that I lived.
Bro, it's been amazing to hear your story, to understand some of your struggle, and to literally see you decide not to be the caterpillar, but to become the butterfly. Hey, man, I want to have you back on. If people want to reach out to you, because you're the real deal. I'm just going to tell you, everybody, if you can't figure this out by now, this guy's the real deal. If they want to reach out to you and get to know you more, check out some of the courses that you have, whether they're a business leader or somebody that wants to learn how to take care of themselves personally. Yeah. What's the best way for them to find you?
So, best ways to find me, and I'm going to give you the tagline. Savage Freedoms exists for one specific reason. That is to help individuals become greater assets to themselves, their families, and their communities. We do that through tactical training, leadership, mentality, and perspective development. You can reach me at adam@savagefreedoms.com. That is adam@savagefreedoms.com. You can find me on TikTok at Savage Freedoms Defense. You can find me on Instagram at Savage Freedoms Defense. And you can find me on Facebook at Savage Freedoms. You can also go to therealadamsmith.com or savagefreedoms.com. All the above are ways to get access to me and my information. If you want to have a conversation about a mentorship program or things along those lines, I don't actually have an offering online for you to go and look at, because everything I do is very unique and it's customized to the individual. So if you want to have a conversation about what that looks like, or if you want to have a leadership or team building experience or anything along those lines, send me a message or an email or DM me in one of those channels, and I will gladly return the message or the phone call and have a conversation about how I can be of service to you and your life.
Brother, I really appreciate you taking the time to invest into me and to our audience. And I knew this was going to be exactly like this. I hope that you are willing to come on again and have a conversation.
100%.
If you have an opportunity to see this man speak live, if you can shake his hand, if you can get around his energy, I've been speaking on stages for quite a while. I've been around a lot of personalities and a lot of huge egos. You're going to meet somebody that doesn't have a huge ego, but has a lot of certainty. And it comes from the things that he's gone through. And I cannot recommend enough that you meet this guy. So, as we always say, we'll see you in the trenches, folks. Take care.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Hey, friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to catch future casts. If you really enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it so others can benefit from it as well. I'll see you in the trenches.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.